Have you ever noticed that some of the most intelligent people don't seem to enjoy being around crowds? While everyone else is chasing constant conversations, parties, and endless notifications, they often choose something completely different: silence. At first glance, that might seem strange. Society often tells us that being social is the key to happiness and success. So when someone prefers spending a quiet evening alone instead of going out, people sometimes assume they're lonely, antisocial, or even unhappy. But what if that's not the truth? What if choosing solitude isn't a weakness at all? What if, for some people, it's actually one of the reasons they think more clearly, create better ideas, and make smarter decisions? Psychologists have spent decades studying how intelligence, personality, and the human brain interact. While intelligence doesn't automatically make someone introverted, research suggests that many highly analytical people often value meaningful solitude more than constant social stimulation. The important word here is solitude. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is the painful feeling of wanting connection, but not having it. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice. It's the ability to enjoy your own company without feeling empty. That difference changes everything. Imagine walking through a quiet forest with no phone, no conversations, and no distractions. For many people, that sounds boring. But for others, it feels incredibly peaceful. In those quiet moments, the mind finally has room to think, reflect, and connect ideas that are normally buried beneath the noise of everyday life. Our brains are constantly processing information. Every conversation, every notification, every sound competes for our attention. The more distractions we experience, the harder it becomes to focus deeply on one thought. This is why many creative thinkers, scientists, writers, and inventors throughout history intentionally protected their quiet time. They understood that deep thinking rarely happens in constant noise. Being alone doesn't magically make someone smarter, but having uninterrupted time allows the brain to organize memories, solve problems, and explore ideas in ways that are often impossible during non-stop social interaction. Think about the last time you solved a difficult problem. Chances are the answer didn't appear while you were scrolling through social media or talking in a crowded room. It probably arrived during a quiet moment, while taking a walk, sitting alone, or simply allowing your mind to wander. That isn't a coincidence. The human brain has a remarkable ability to connect information when it isn't overwhelmed by constant external input. In fact, some neuroscientists believe these quiet moments play an important role in creativity, self-reflection, and long-term planning. So perhaps the real question isn't why intelligent people spend time alone. The better question is, what is their brain doing during that silence that most people never notice? As scientists continued studying the human brain, they discovered something fascinating. Intelligence isn't just about having a high IQ or remembering random facts. It's also about how the brain processes information, solves problems, and filters distractions. Imagine two people walking into the same crowded room. One immediately starts talking to everyone, enjoying the energy around them. The other quietly observes the room before saying a single word. Neither person is better than the other. They're simply processing the world differently. Research suggests that people with strong analytical thinking often spend more time observing than reacting. Instead of speaking immediately, they naturally pause to evaluate what they're seeing, hearing, and feeling. Their brains are constantly searching for patterns, asking questions, and connecting ideas that others might completely overlook. This habit of deep thinking can make constant social interaction mentally exhausting. Every conversation requires your brain to read facial expressions, interpret tone of voice, predict reactions, choose the right words, and respond within seconds. It's an incredibly complex mental process. For someone whose mind is always analyzing information in depth, this continuous stimulation can consume enormous amounts of mental energy. That's why many highly thoughtful people don't necessarily avoid others because they dislike them. Instead, they often need periods of quiet to recharge their attention and organize their thoughts. This idea is supported by psychological research on cognitive load. The more information your brain has to process at one time, the more mental fatigue you experience. Quiet environments reduce unnecessary stimulation, allowing the brain to focus on what truly matters. There's another interesting reason behind this behavior. Many intelligent people care less about the number of relationships they have and more about the quality of those relationships. Instead of maintaining dozens of casual friendships, they often invest deeply in a small circle of people they genuinely trust. Meaningful conversations tend to provide far more satisfaction than endless small talk. This doesn't mean they're antisocial. It simply means they value depth over quantity. Think about the conversations you remember most. They probably weren't the loudest or the longest. They were the ones that challenged your thinking, changed your perspective, or made you feel truly understood. For many analytical minds, those rare conversations are far more rewarding than spending hours surrounded by noise without real connection. History offers many examples of people who deliberately protected time for solitude. Writers, scientists, inventors, philosophers, and artists often schedule quiet hours away from distractions because they understood that creativity needs space. Silence isn't empty. Sometimes silence is where the brain does its most important work, and that's where the next surprising discovery begins. But there's another side to this story that most people never hear. Spending time alone doesn't simply give the brain a chance to rest. It gives the mind an opportunity to understand itself. Psychologists often describe self-reflection as one of the most valuable mental habits a person can develop. During quiet moments, the brain reviews experiences, evaluates decisions, learns from mistakes, and begins connecting ideas that once seemed unrelated. This process helps people grow emotionally as well as intellectually. Instead of reacting to every situation, reflective people are more likely to pause and ask themselves important questions. Why did I make that decision? What can I learn from this experience? How can I improve next time? Those simple questions can completely change the direction of someone's life. Interestingly, neuroscience has identified a network inside the brain known as the default mode network. This network becomes more active when you're not focused on an outside task, during moments of quiet thinking, daydreaming, or reflection. Scientists believe it plays an important role in self-awareness, memory, imagination, and planning for the future. In other words, your brain doesn't stop working when you're alone. In many ways, it's doing some of its most important work. However, it's important not to misunderstand this idea. Being intelligent does not mean you should isolate yourself from the world. Humans are naturally social beings. Healthy friendships, supportive families, and meaningful relationships remain essential for emotional well-being. Even the most independent thinkers benefit from genuine human connection. The real lesson isn't that smart people avoid others. The lesson is that they often understand the value of balance. They know when to connect with the world and when to disconnect long enough to hear their own thoughts. If your mind occasionally craves silence, don't immediately assume something is wrong with you. It may simply be your brain asking for space to think, recover, and create. The next time you find yourself choosing a quiet evening over another distraction, remember this. Some of history's greatest ideas weren't born in crowded rooms. They were born in moments of silence. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more fascinating insights about psychology, the human brain, science, and human behavior, make sure to subscribe to Mind Theory and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and never stop questioning the way your mind works.